Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And welcome to Disney Plus Cheese, a podcast where two childless men in their 20s talk about films on Disney Plus with a cynical eye. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
You know, I've been having these strange dreams lately.
Strange dreams? That's interesting. I have actually not been able to sleep for the past 6 months.
Same. Ever since I was, in a horrendous tornado, I just keep my eyes awake and slip slowly into madness.
Yeah, I actually was I was in a different universe than this one, and I got home using my copyrighted Ruby slippers. So
Ruby Slippers TM.
Ruby Slippers trademark.
Trademark MGM 1980. All right, guys. So, enough beating around the bush. Today, Andrew and I are talking about the Disney classic Return to Oz.
Everyone loves this movie. Everyone knows this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, you must be living under a rock.
I fucking love this movie, and don't you go shaming this. Andrew, you were so against us doing this for a while.
I didn't want it to be the first episode when it's like some nothing movie that most people don't know.
How dare you call it a nothing movie?
It's not a nothing movie. I like the movie. It's just, I mean, come on. We want this podcast to be watched by someone, correct? Not just some weirdo who is like, oh, Return to Oz. I watch everything about Return to Oz.
I love Fairuza Balk. Well, Return to Oz is a 1985 fantasy film directed and written by Walter Murch, co-written by Gil Dennis, and produced by Paul Maslansky. It stars Nicole Williamson, Jean Marsh, Piper Laurie, and Fairuza Balk as Dorothy Gale in her first screen role. The film is an unofficial sequel to the 1939 Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer film, The Wizard of Oz, and is based on L. Frank Baum's novels, mainly The Marvelous Land of Oz and The Ozma of Oz, which I'm going to go into some of that. In the plot, Dorothy returns to the Land of Oz to find that it has been overthrown by the villainous Gnome King, and must restore it with her new friends, Tick-Tock, Jack Pumpkinhead, and Princess Ozma. No love for the Gump there, I guess. In 1954, Walt Disney Productions bought the film rights to Baum's remaining Oz books to use in the television series Disneyland. This led to the live-action film Rainbow Road to Oz, which was never completed. Murch suggested making another Oz film in 1980. Disney approved the project as they were due to lose the film copyrights. So, you know, it's like the fan forestick of the 80s. Though MGM was not involved in the production, Disney did have to pay a large fee and able to use the ruby slippers created for the MGM Wizard of Oz. Return to Oz fell behind schedule during production, and following a change of Disney management, Murch was briefly fired from the project, but was brought back on at the insistence of George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, who also helped behind the scenes of the film. Return to Oz performed poorly at the box office, grossing $11.1 million in the United States on a $28 million budget, and received mixed to negative reviews. However, it performed well outside of the US, mostly in Japan, and has since acquired a cult following. It received an Oscar nomination for Best Visual Effects. Andrew, what did you think about Return to Oz? And also, what's your history with this property?
Well, I watched Wizard of Oz one time, and I watched Wicked, which is not technically this property, and that's it. And then now you made me watch this movie.
You're forgetting one. The Muppet Wizard of Oz.
I've never seen the Muppet Wizard of Oz. I blocked it out. Strangely,
that's not on Disney Plus.
I blocked it out. That movie doesn't exist. I've never watched it.
So what was your basis for coming into Return to Oz, and your thoughts of it being like a relative nobody in this media?
Well, I had no idea what to think. I know that this movie has more of a reputation for being darker, and scarier in certain parts. And I would agree with that to some extent, although having not being able to remember the original Wizard of Oz that much, maybe that one was darker too, but I watched that maybe 10, 11 years ago. I can't remember much about it.
It's a good movie. You should check it out.
I should. Yeah, you're right. But I like this one. This is a great one. Return to Oz is awesome. It's badass.
It's fucking cool, right? And you know me, I'm always down to like make things a musical if you can. But one of the smartest things this does is decide not to keep the musical nature of the 39 film.
Yeah, they don't sing at all. But honestly, I don't want to hear any of these characters sing because they all look like they would be terrible singers.
They all look like they're on the verge of suicide.
I think Dorothy Gale potentially has schizophrenia or something bad. And all of her imaginary friends are just creatures that she finds in Oz, but are based on stuff in her yard or at a hospital. So it's all fucked up. It's all sorts of fucked.
It really is. And even
it doesn't shock me that you love this movie, Jess. That's all I can say. I love
this. you sound like a lot of my friends. I'm not gonna lie. Like, Jess loves the dark stuff. He's such a happy guy, but like, why does he revel in the dark shit?
Yeah,
I don't
only
even think
unlike your friends, I know the truth. You're not a happy guy.
I mean, yeah, sadly. I've watched this film probably a little too young. I remember the exact day I bought it. My babysitter was taking me to the library, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like a Wizard of Oz movie." Rent it from me, and I was around 3. I turned it on, and it was a ride, and I loved it. And I wore that VHS out until I got my own VHS of it.
My God,
I remember my dad surprised me with the VHS.
What did little baby you think about the part where she gets strapped down to receive electric shock therapy? What was that like? Was that your favorite part, or?
I thought she was just wearing headphones and she was about to listen to some weird noises.
Oh, okay. Just gonna listen to some music.
I mean, he told her it was fine. It was like a little cute robot face. It was all gonna be fine. And I would have trusted that doctor, I'm not gonna lie. He seemed like he knew his shit, so I was like,
also
he's
got
probably.
He's got a little tongue. The electric shock machine has a little tongue. I mean, come on, what's not to love?
You have to, like, I know we're kind of jumping around here, but that scene, like, where he's introducing, like, this electric shock machine just in a way to indoctrinate her and make it seem like, hey, it's not all that scary. Look at the face.
Yeah.
I think that makes you really like that guy. He is charming in a way. Unlike the villains in The Wizard of Oz, which are kind of like, oh, they're just evil.
I was kind of sad that he died. Like, actually died.
He had to go and get his machines.
Oh my, like, yeah. Okay, well, I guess let's talk about the plot. Like,
okay, Andrew, describe for me the plot of Return to Oz. Like, step by step, this shit.
So kind of like the actual Wizard of Oz movie, there's the real world segment at the beginning and the end, and then there's Oz. This movie really wants to make sure that you know that Oz is not real, though. So they start you out.
I mean, I feel like the original one makes you want to feel like Oz isn't real, too.
Yeah, but I don't know. In that one, Dorothy looks a bit older, and I don't know. It feels more real. Feels like it could have been real, you know?
This feels like it could have been real too, honestly. And there's some elements that we'll bring up when it comes up. But keep on going.
Okay.
I'm going to be on the opposite side of this, but keep on going.
Okay, well, the whole beginning is Dorothy is unable to sleep and hasn't been able to sleep since the events of the first movie happened. So the whole tornado and the old house being gone, and her family's rebuilding a new house.
Now they have 2 mortgages. We never had a mortgage in our life. Now we got 2. Oh, God.
So Dorothy decides... Well, actually, you know what? Let me go through a few of the other things. Dorothy's in the backyard with her chicken.
Bellina.
And Bellina doesn't lay eggs, apparently, or she can't figure out where she's laying all the eggs. And then...
It's a Chekhov's gun, basically, like...
Because that's important. That's very important.
Can't lay eggs.
It's very important. Okay, so I had to go through that. Then her aunt takes her to a hospital because obviously she can't sleep and that's a problem. And the doctor's going to give her electric shock therapy, which is framed as a very bad thing, and I'm pretty sure we don't use that in the same way anymore, do we? Is electric shock therapy still a thing?
Didn't you see Next to Normal?
Oh, right. You're right. Okay, well, in this movie, it's framed as like a really bad thing that she's gonna get this shock therapy. And they're using like legit horror movie tactics to make you afraid of the shock therapy. So, obviously, mental health is a bad thing.
I mean, if you're in the early like 19th, what is it, early 20th century, yeah, probably is a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure those machines didn't really work properly. All right.
They had lobotomies with ice picks back then, so probably mental health wasn't like at its top-notch level.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of media that makes people afraid of hospitals. Okay, let's see. Dorothy makes a pumpkin. Gets a pumpkin and makes a jack-o'-lantern, I should say. Pardon me.
Who did she get the pumpkin from, though, Andrew?
Some random person that appears in a mirror.
You see, this is where I'm starting to feel the reality coming in.
What's that?
With this character of Ozma.
You're saying that Ozma proves that this is all real?
Yes.
Are you sure that someone else didn't just give her that pumpkin and the whole mirror world and Ozma entering our reality is...
Who saves Dorothy from the upcoming moment then, if Ozma isn't real?
Maybe herself?
She's strapped down! Arms, legs, neck, all that!
Maybe she wasn't strapped quite as tight as she thought she was.
It's either Ozma exists or a little girl died.
No. It's either Ozma exists or a little girl who is having horrific delusions isn't tied down quite as tightly as she thought she was. Or possibly, hear me out on this one, not tied down at all.
See, you're asking a lot of this, and you're putting things that weren't given to us on screen.
Okay, well, the movie is portraying her delusions. She is an unreliable narrator, therefore the movie is unreliable. So I don't think it's crazy.
The movie's only unreliable when she gets to Oz.
That's not true. She's having delusions from the start. She's seeing this person in the mirror. People don't live in mirrors, Jess.
Either way, continue with your incorrect assumptions. Let's go.
Okay, well, she gets tied down to a cart with squeaky wheels. And she gets pushed through the hospital.
That's gonna come back later.
In a scene directly from Jacob's Ladder, even though this came first, actually, so...
Jacob's Ladder ripped off Return to Oz.
Literally. And she's gonna get shock therapy, but lightning strikes and I guess... Okay, here's my other interpretation. The lightning strikes and everything happens right as she's about to receive the shock therapy. Yeah. What if all the Oz shit is just, like, the shock therapy working?
You never know. She seems normal when she comes back, so...
Yeah, so maybe. And that's why the ending of the thing is...
Style.
The ending of the thing is her leaving Oz and leaving it behind and letting go of all her friends.
Yeah, letting go on
they
her
are
terms.
Not real. Yes. So maybe that's my other interpretation. But she runs away from the hospital and she drowns in a river. And that's the end of the movie.
That was the only part of this film that actually kind of spooked me as a kid, was the idea of like being in the rain in a thunderstorm on that like raging river and that little girl dying. Not Dorothy, the other little girl.
Well, yeah, because if you don't pay close enough attention, you might think she's actually dead. Because honestly, a little kid would probably forget about Ozma because she only comes back in the last 5 minutes.
Little girl died. Saving a dumb Kansas girl.
Yeah. Well, moving on, she wakes up in Oz, and then she goes and meets her friends one by one. The first friend she meets is
friends.
TikTok.
No,
not TikTok. The first friend is Belinda. The chicken shows up for no reason.
To be the Toto.
Okay, which I think that's just proof right there that Oz is not real, because where would that chicken come from? she didn't have the chicken with her on the river, so it's gotta be imaginary. Where else would the chicken come from? What's your counter to that, Jess?
You got a point. That's 1 point in your box.
Because she didn't have the chicken on the river, and then she does have the chicken in Oz. The chicken was at her house. There's no way it could have gotten to Oz unless it is imaginary. So, there you go.
What if all things that die go to Oz, and the Aunt Em and Uncle Henry just sent her away so they could kill that chicken for not providing eggs?
That's stupid, Jess. Because, as we know, the deadly desert only turns things to sand that are alive. So, if everything in Oz is dead, that doesn't make sense.
All right, continue. We're in the deadly desert when we land.
Yep, and then she makes her way to the Emerald City, where she meets one set of bad guys. I guess they're the henchmen of the secondary villain.
The flying monkey equivalent.
Yeah, they're the wheelers, and get this, when they move around, squeaky wheels.
Yeah.
Where do we remember that? Where do we remember that from?
Time back into the hospital.
Okay. So she meets TikTok, who is a robot.
Fucking one of the coolest characters.
Yeah. I don't remember if they actually show this, but apparently the chicken says that TikTok is like the old tea kettle in the backyard or something like that. So they try to tie that into her actual life, but I don't remember them showing that in the movie. So
I thought it was the robot creature, or the robot with the face, that the electroshock thing.
Because that's a bad guy, and the TikTok is a good guy, so it's not.
Well, I thought that was what I always tied to when I was a kid, that TikTok was that guy.
Well, there is an actual line from the chicken that says it's like the kettle in our backyard or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's that. They get taken to the leader of the Wheelers, because TikTok beats the shit out of all the Wheelers, with ease, in the most badass way possible.
Cool.
He literally just spins around in a circle.
Remember IG-11 from The Mandalorian? He does that.
Yes. I haven't seen that, but yes. Something. With a lunch pail. The Queen...
Mombi. She's a witch.
Queen Mombi the Witch, who has replaceable heads, but we find out eventually that the original head is the head of the nurse from the hospital.
Yes.
Right?
And she's beheaded a bunch of the local Oz girls and taken their heads so she can change her head to be beautiful when she wants to.
Yes. Which I'm assuming is something to do with her believing the nurse is like two-faced or something. I don't really know. Something.
And can I say that the head removing technology hasn't aged badly? Like, there's a little matte line.
It actually
but it
looks
look
okay.
bad at all.
It looks okay.
Pretty good.
I was expecting it to look really bad.
Most of the effects in this look pretty good. Most of the effects look pretty good in here, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, there's nothing like... Usually these type of movies...
Well.
A lot of these type of movies, there's always that scene where it's like really obvious green screen, and it's like, oh man. This movie doesn't really have that scene though, so... Oh, there's also a lot of really cool, like, claymation stuff.
Yes, and robots and practical effects. When she meets Mombi throws her in the attic to, like, starve to death so she can cut off her head. Did I get that right?
No. She's going to let her live there for 2 years so she can become pretty, and then cut off her head.
Okay, yeah, so while she's up there, she meets a talking jack-o'-lantern, called Jack Pumpkinhead.
Talking jack-o'-lantern?
And it's like such a cool looking puppet. It looks so nice.
It's so weird that he calls her mom, though. The whole movie.
That's straight from the L. Frank Baum book, though.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, he's got a pumpkin for a head, and he's literally just like a stick with a pumpkin head.
It's great. And it sometimes moves, but also sometimes doesn't. Yeah,
well, it like stretches, but it doesn't talk. Like, it doesn't move the mouth to talk, ever.
No,
It just, like...
it's like
weird.
how we see the Scarecrow later, and his mouth doesn't really move either.
Oh, the Scarecrow is awful. I really don't like the Scarecrow at the end. I kind of wish they were just able to use the one from the original Wizard of Oz and have them look the same.
You can't do that. Copyright, Scott. Make it your own thing.
Yeah, whatever.
But you gotta go into the terrifying moment where Dorothy tries to steal, like, some magic powder to make a Gump head come back to life.
Okay, well, she has a brilliant plan to take a moose head and tie 2 couches together and strap ferns to it to make a flying couch with a moose head. And using the same thing that was used to bring the pumpkin guy to life, which is locked in the queen, or was it queen or princess? I think it's queen, right?
I thought it was Princess Mombi, but I know she's Witch Mombi in the book.
Yeah, it's whatever. Mombi, it's locked in Mombi's head cabinet.
Her original
head cabinet. Yes. So she goes in, and she has to walk past all these heads that are asleep, and also a headless body lying in the bed, all of which are asleep. And she opens up the cabinet, grabs the powder from right next to the head, and then all the heads wake up and start screaming her name in the most horrific scene I think I've ever seen in a children's movie ever. Like, I don't know how you watched that as a kid and didn't get horrific nightmares.
I just thought it was cool.
It's pretty cool. I like it a lot.
It's a ridiculous image, though.
It's honestly pretty scary. Like, and if you wanted to make, like, an actual scary movie using that kind of idea, you definitely could.
Yeah, but just like this headless... But the thing is, Dorothy doesn't act scared. She's more like, oh, I just don't want to get caught, more than, holy shit, what? Ah!
Oh my god, all the heads are screaming! What happening?
The fuck?
Honestly, a horror movie with that premise, like a monster that steals your head and wears it, that's pretty cool. That could work.
That can pretend to be you.
There's a concept here.
Don't steal it, guys. That's ours. We're making this.
We're making that.
And we're gonna call it Oz the Great and Powerful.
Oz the Great and Powerful, yeah.
Okay, so they fly off and they eventually hit something and they end up in this Arctic tundra land.
Yeah. And then this is where they have to defeat the Gnome King, who is
one of the best villains, like, in any Disney film. I'm
very casual. He's very casual. He's evil. Pretty obviously, he wants to, like, kill them all. But at the same time, he's, like, chill, like, really chill about it.
He's empathetic and, like, he can, like, be comforting and warm. But he's very obviously two-faced. It's an interesting line that actor has to ride, and he does it beautifully.
I want to say that he's almost not even two-faced. He doesn't like when people, like, question his power. Because he never really, like, backstabs anybody. He's just, I don't know.
I mean, he kind of does. He kind of...
Well, he's right. They never asked. And he does tell them when they do ask. So, like, he sets up this challenge where he turns the Scarecrow into an ornament and puts him into the collection of ornaments that he has. And he sends each of the characters into the ornament room to guess which one is the Scarecrow. And if they guess correctly, then, you know, he gets turned back into a person. And he says, he asks them, are you willing to risk something for that? And they all say yes, and he never tells them what they're going to risk, he just sends them into the room. And of course, if they guess incorrectly, they get turned into an ornament themselves, which they get really pissed about. But he tells them right when she asks, they just never asked. So, is it two-faced? Is it a backstab? I mean, I don't know.
That's a little bit. It's a dick move. It's an intentionally leaving out of information. When I was a
But
kid,
if,
and they're
if
like,
they had
they're like
asked,
drinking
though, he
out of
probably
the-
would have told them.
When I was a kid, and they were like drinking like the cider or like the drinks that he makes out of rocks and like the little cookies he gives, I thought those looked so fucking good.
You mean when they were drinking hot metal?
Yes.
Apparently they were drinking liquid silver and it was delicious. I don't understand how that was delicious for Dorothy, because she really enjoyed it, but that doesn't make sense. Wouldn't that kill you?
It looked really good.
Wouldn't that kill you, though, if you drank liquid silver? I'm not a doctor,
I don't know,
but
I haven't done it before.
I also would like to say that the Gnome King is originally a face on a wall, and then as each of the people go in reverse order that she met them, so the moose head goes in first, then the pumpkin, then TikTok, then her.
But TikTok pulls a trick. He acts like his thing wound down so they could work together, which is pretty cool.
It doesn't work, though.
Doesn't work. And then she does she spins around a bunch. Oh.
No, I gotta say, the Gnome King, as each one of them turns into an ornament, he turns into a human.
Yes, he gets more and more
slowly
detail.
becomes... He turns from a claymation thing into the actor that plays the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty great. Also, you know what else is pretty great? When he reveals that he's wearing the ruby slippers. That's pretty great.
They're like not even like on his feet is the thing. They're like kind of on his toes. Like, it's hilarious. I love it. It's so funny.
I can just send you home right now. There's no place like home.
He just slips these little red slippers out from his cloak.
That's great. That's a ridiculous image. Like, it's so hilarious.
It also doesn't quite make sense, because when he's not a human, how is he wearing those? Like, when he's a face
you make a point.
When he's just a face on the wall, where are the slippers?
Can we take a moment to talk about how great Fairuza Balk is in this role? I know you say that she's a little too young, and maybe so, but she really does telegraph Judy Garland's performance from the 39 film in very specific ways and effective ways.
I don't think she's too young. I think it works really well. I just think that it makes it not really feel like a sequel just because she seems younger than Judy Garland did. So
yeah, but I think she does really good. Like, it's obvious she watched that film and tried to take those infectations. Like, Toto, this is going to the Yellow Brick Road.
Did we talk about how the Gnome King had turned everyone into stone?
No, we didn't. All of Dorothy's old friends have been turned into stone.
Yeah. I really like this. It ends. The ending is Belinda, who is inside of Jack's head, poops out an egg into the guy's mouth, and he dies.
Yep. After she brings back all of her friends.
Yep, and then all of her friends come back, and then Ozma appears out of a mirror and sends her home.
Yeah, can I take a moment to talk about Ozma?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Did I tell you about how she is told, her story is told in the book?
No, not at all.
I feel like I brought this up. It's such a ridiculous thing.
Go for it.
I don't know what else Frank... Alright, so the book this was based off of, I believe it was called The Ozma of Oz, but it might not have been. So it's about this young boy called Tip, and his mother is Mombi, and he's the one that created Jack, like, just for a friend, and Mombi brings him back to life, and Tip's like, I don't... And Mombi threatens to turn him into a statue. He's like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go to Oz with my friend Jack Pumpkinhead and get away from this. And a bunch of fun adventures come about, and he meets all these new friends. And then he makes it to Oz, and he is told by the Scarecrow or whoever, I don't remember who, that he is not a boy named Tip, but he is the Queen of Oz, Ozma. And he's like, oh. And they're like, we're going to turn you into her now. And he's like, I don't really know if I want to do that. And they're like, you'll be fine. Come on. Stop. You're still you. You're just going to be Ozma. This female child princess. Let's go.
Okay. That's,
But
why?
The thing that this movie does is it doesn't tell that story, but it still says that Jack's real mother is Ozma. So does that mean that the Tip storyline happened in between?
Yeah, I think so. Although, wait, maybe. You're right, it could have happened. It wouldn't happen in between, though. It would have happened way before.
Maybe. I mean, time works differently in Oz.
Yeah, I got no idea, man. Why does that? Why couldn't they just make him the king of Oz? I don't understand.
No, he needs to be Ozma, the female child princess of Oz.
Is this like the author had some sort of, fetish kind of thing?
I mean, probably, but who knows? We can't dig him up and ask him.
I'm into it, it's fine.
So Dorothy is returned back home to Kansas. They find out that the doctor died trying to save his electric shock machines.
And the nurse is going to prison, I guess? I don't really understand that one.
Well, no, because they had patients that got brain damage and they just locked them in the cellars. I can see that.
I just thought that was imaginary, to be honest. I didn't think that was really happened. But, okay.
No. And Billina decided to stay in Oz and hang out there. And then later Dorothy looks in the mirror and she sees Ozma and she's holding Billina. But now her delusions are telling her, don't talk about us. They'll think you're crazy.
Yeah, so I guess the moral of the story is if you have really bad hallucinations, just don't tell anyone about it. It's all good.
It's all good. Go outside and play with Toto.
I want to say the one negative about this movie is I miss Toto.
I did miss Toto a lot. We got a lot of him in the beginning. Like we got. Well, yeah,
that's because they know. That's because they know that a lot of people are gonna want to see Toto, and there's no Toto, and it's sad. And Billina, I don't remember how to pronounce her name. Not nearly as good as Toto.
I disagree. I think she's a better special effect.
Okay, on a scale of Oz sidekicks, I would put Toto number 1, highest one. Billina number 2,
That's not really
second
an
highest.
Oz sound. That's not an Oz sidekick because they're both from like Kansas, basically.
Yeah, so is Billina. I'm saying like Dorothy sidekicks. Toto.
Okay, fine.
Toto number 1, Billina the chicken number 2, and Pepe the shrimp. Garbage tier. The worst one.
It checks out. Do you know who did the voice of Jack Pumpkinhead?
I saw it in the credits, but I don't remember.
Brian Henson, the son of Jim Henson.
Oh, yeah. Is that the same son that made that one movie recently?
The Happy Time Murders? Yes, it is.
Oh, man. That's great.
Good for him.
Good for him. He really achieved something with that one.
Yeah, maybe he should have made Return to Oz too.
I would have rather have seen that.
I would have. This feels like the middle part of a trilogy. I'm not gonna lie. This feels like the middle part of a trilogy, and
there needs to be a conclusion where she goes back to Oz. Like it does feel that way. Because like she now has like 8 friends in Oz. Something's got to happen. Oh,
I agree.
The Tin Man got his backstory from the Woodsman in this.
Did he? Oh yeah, they did drop that in, didn't they?
Yeah, they dropped that in there. The Tin Man got his actual backstory. Isn't that nice?
That's nice. Yeah, Edward, how do you like that?
Yippee. Oh,
Yippee.
Man. Well, that's the whole plot. What else do we have to say about this one, Jess?
I love this movie. I really, really do.
I thought it was great, and I would recommend everyone watching it.
It's on Disney Plus, and
I would bet a lot of the people listening to this probably haven't seen it.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I feel like this has been kind of risen up in like the ranks.
I'd like to see this movie become like a true cult classic and get a sequel. That's what I want to see.
Yes. I always like to pretend that The Waterboy was a sequel to this. And that Dorothy grew up to be the love interest in The Waterboy because she's played by the same actress.
You know what? I'm not gonna follow that theory at all. I'm giving that zero credence. Waterboy, not a sequel to this. I don't care.
Okay, what about The Craft? Because she's also in The Craft.
I've never seen that, so you know what? We can do that one.
It's about witches, so Dorothy was really a witch.
That makes sense, actually.
She was also in The Island of Dr. Moreau, but I don't know how that scans, so we're not going to bring that up.
Okay.
Are you ready to talk about the merchandise corner?
Sure. What do you have for this one?
All right. So, since people were bitching about how we were doing it last time, which probably is fair, this time we're just going to talk about one thing that I find very interesting. So it's very hard to find any merchandise about Return to Oz. In fact, it had you couldn't find a VHS of this movie for the longest time. It was so fucking rare. But in Disneyland Paris, they have an entire section of a theme park for it.
For this movie?
Yeah, it's basically Disneyland's Storyboat Land canal boats, and they have like a little section of Oz based on the designs and characters from this movie specifically. It is specifically a Return to Oz section of Disneyland Paris.
Okay, I need to see this. I'm looking at these pictures.
Right.
I don't see anything from it necessarily.
Like you have TikTok in there and all the folks.
That's actually pretty sick.
Isn't it?
Hang on, I'm sorry I'm being quiet. I'm trying to find like pictures. Well, I see here. I see
think there's like
Dorothy
there's a full ride through on YouTube too, where you can get a better view of everything. But I think that it's really cool that there are still some pieces of this movie alive in the Disney world.
I'd like to see TikTok, and honestly, Disney owns all Oz stuff, right?
I think they own the sequels. They don't own the MGM ones, so they can't do the things they want to do, which is remake The Wizard of Oz.
What I don't quite understand is how can you own the sequels and all the characters involved in the sequels, including the characters that are in the original, but not own the original?
It's confusing. You see, the books are in the public domain now.
Doesn't MGM not exist anymore?
It does exist, it's just under a bunch of other folks.
Okay. And doesn't Disney kind of work with MGM a lot? Didn't they have that theme park, MGM Studios? How does that work? How does any of this work, Jess? Explain copyright law to me.
So I'm gonna go find out who MGM is owned by right now, but I know it's not Disney, because you remember when Oz the Great and Powerful came out, and that's a Disney film directed by Sam Raimi about the Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Okay, so they could not use specific things from the MGM film. So the witch had to be a different shade of green. She was not allowed to have the classic dress in the specific design. She's not allowed to have the mole on her face.
It's a lot of crazy shit.
And the ruby slippers aren't allowed to be involved in it. So you can adapt the books as much as you want, but you cannot adapt the things that were added into the movie from the MGM. You can't add any of the songs, you can't add any of the specific designs that weren't explicitly described in the books, all that nonsense. Which is why they're probably not going to make a Wicked movie anytime soon, because the things that they got away with in the Broadway show, they probably couldn't get away with in a movie. Even though it's kind of smart how they did it. And if you check back at our Wicked episode, I explained that very in detail. Oh, our Wicked episode of Musicals with Cheese, which is a completely separate podcast to this.
This is a spin-off, kind of.
Yes. Yes. You won't understand this episodes of this unless you watch all of them, so go watch all of them.
That is crazy that there's an actual reference to Return to Oz in Disneyland Paris. I watched a bit of a ride through, and wow. I can't even believe it myself.
And can we also say that this probably has the best design of Oz that's ever been put on screen? Because the city of Oz is like never really seen in the MGM film, you see like the inside of one building, but this feels like a bustling city.
Yeah, I actually like it, and the geography of the entire Oz itself is a bit more clear as well, because they actually travel a lot more through it. Though what is a bit odd is they go down the yellow brick road in like 5 seconds, which isn't that like half of the first movie?
That's one of the things I was actually gonna say that I really liked about this. Like, the big journey of the first movie is like a sub thing that happens in this, which just shows that the stakes are so much higher than that first film.
Yeah. No, I love this movie. It's fantastic.
All right. What do you think Walt would think of this? WWWD. What would Walt do and what would Walt think?
Okay, well, Walt would probably think that this is really weird that his company has created the sequel to a movie owned by a different company. He'd probably think that, number one. And number two, I don't think he'd like this movie at all.
I'm gonna say the other side. I think he would have appreciated it for being ballsy, because back in the late 50s, early 60s, when he walked out of To Kill a Mockingbird, he was just so angry because he's like, my company can never make anything like that. I want to make important, big movies, and this feels like a big, important movie that's taking a lot of risks.
Yeah, that is a decent alternative. Yeah. But on the flip side, this movie made no money.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You make a point. That's fair. All right, Walt wouldn't have liked it because it didn't make money. Andrew, what is your overall thoughts and your cheese rating?
Oh man, do they have cheese in Oz? I don't think they have cows or anything. Would there be Gump cheese in Oz? Probably.
I'd consider it.
All right, well, I'm gonna give it Gump cheese, and my overall thoughts, freaking great, man. If you like a darker interpretation of it, or even just a more, it's not even darker, more intense, I would say, is a better way to say it, interpretation of Oz, check it out. Also, lots of practical effects, lots of great claymation stuff. It's a great movie.
It all holds up today. It like really still holds up.
Yeah, there's no part where it's like, oh man, that looks really fake. Oh, that looks like crap. Also, I want to say that
that's a green screen.
There's one thing we didn't talk about a huge amount that I really like. Man, it must be really hard on the actors to be a wheeler. Like, holy crap, how do you ride around like that? Like, they're on 4 wheels? That looks not easy at all. Am I wrong? Is that easy to do?
I'd much rather be a wheeler than TikTok, let me say that. Okay,
well that's fair, but there's a lot of wheelers, so finding that many people that can do that, that's pretty impressive. I like it. Really cool stuff. Check it out. Jess, what do you think?
Right.
We already know what you think. Who cares?
I love The Return to Oz. It is one of my childhood favorite movies. It is great, and it filled me with nostalgia to rewatch it, and I hope that you all get a chance to take a look at it too, because it is properly a great piece of 80s media cheese. So I am giving it yellow brick cheese.
Okay,
follow
Jess.
the yellow brick cheese. Follow the yellow brick cheese. Yeah.
Jess, this may be the last time we talk about anything Oz related for a while.
For a bit, yeah.
So how about we let's do a little bit of a rating all the Oz properties we've seen.
Yeah, you gotta check out our other podcast, but yeah, let's go.
Okay, what's your tier list here of Oz properties?
Is it just the ones we've covered or the ones that we've seen?
The ones you've seen, like in general, because there's some that we're never going to talk about at all. Like, we're probably never going to talk about the MGM movie. Like I say, I doubt we would. Maybe someday.
I think that would make a good commentary. I think it would be a good commentary.
Yeah, well, we might not talk about it in an actual episode, and we're definitely not going to talk about, like... Actually, is it on Disney Plus, Oz the Great and Powerful? I don't think so. Is it?
I'm surprised it isn't, honestly. But it is a Disney film, so it should be
maybe
fair
eventually,
game, but it isn't.
Maybe eventually we'll talk about that, but it's not on Disney Plus for right now. So if you have seen that, include that.
All right, number 1 has to be the original, just because I think that is like one of the most important films ever made. Number 2 is Return to Oz. Number 3. Oh gosh.
And we're including Wicked here. I mean, where does Wicked stand as well?
Not quite at number 3. Are we only doing like stage and film adaptations? Like we're not counting books or nothing?
Don't count the books. No, the books are their own thing.
All right. Number 3 is probably Wicked. Number 4 is the other like mid 80s Oz sequel they made.
Which one? What is that called?
Ooh, I'm trying to find. I think it was just called The Land of Oz.
I've never even heard of that. Is that on Disney Plus? Can we talk about that?
I know that Paul Lynde is. I think he plays Jack Pumpkinhead.
Oh my goodness.
Let me see.
Wait, so there is a third movie. That's okay. Is it unrelated to the Return? It's unrelated to Return to Oz?
It's another sequel, and I think. And I
so
think
bizarre, dude.
That,
the Oz property is so
I think that Liza Minnelli plays Dorothy.
I feel like the Oz property is so fucked up, like how everything...
It's called The Journey Back to Oz, and it was released in 1972 by Filmation.
So it's actually before this movie.
Yes, that was the first Wizard of Oz sequel.
Oh my god. Okay.
It has Margaret Hamilton comes back as the Wicked Witch of the West. Wow, that's actually... No, she came back and played Aunt Em rather than the Wicked Witch of the West, despite playing the Wicked Witch of the West in the original film. That's stupid.
That's weird and also stupid, yes.
Ethel Merman's in it. There's a lot of people in this movie. Okay, that's my number 4. Sorry.
That's your number 4. Number 5?
I want to count the... I like The Wiz. I do like The Wiz, but that is my number 5.
Okay.
Are we counting The Wiz?
Yeah, you can count The Wiz. I've never seen it, but you can count it.
Okay. And then I'll probably put Oz the Great and Powerful, and then I'd put Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return, which was basically a tax evasion scandal. Like, it's a really...
a tax evasion scandal? What is the Oz? The Oz property is so bad. Somebody needs to get
based on
their shit together in
Oz,
this.
Which is not written by L. Frank Baum. It was called Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return, which was released in May of 2014, and it was a huge bomb, and it had actors such as Dan Aykroyd, Jim Belushi, Kelsey Grammer, Martin Short.
Oh my god.
Patrick Stewart.
I just like to point out that you're putting this above The Woodsman, or did you forget about The Woodsman?
Oh, I forgot about The Woodsman. Oh no. Put that like that's like right tied with Wicked.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I like The Woodsman a lot. For what it was. It was a... Oh gosh.
Alright, so there is one that you have distinctly not put on this list still, and we're all the way at the bottom now.
What is it?
The Muppets.
Oh yeah, that's way at the bottom. We still got a couple to go before we get there.
Oh
Come
my
on.
god, you still have more? Holy shit. What else have you seen?
I've seen way too many versions of Wizard of Oz. Are we counting Over the Rainbow or Under the Rainbow, the Chevy Chase Carrie Fisher film about the midgets?
The midgets? Excuse me?
I'm sorry. There was a Chevy Chase film about the making of the 1935 or 39 Wizard of Oz called Under the Rainbow. A visiting dignitary, a CIA agent, a Nazi spy, Japanese tourist, an assassin, and a group of midget actors from the Wizard of Oz all check into an elite Los Angeles hotel called Under the Rainbow.
Good God. If you want to count that, go ahead, but I'm not sure that counts.
It takes place in the same universe. I'd count it.
Alright, it counts. Okay.
Oh, and do we count the TV shows?
If you want to. Have you seen them?
Oh, yeah, Deke Entertainment. Do you remember that?
I remember Deke, yes.
they did a Wizard of Oz TV show that was also a sequel to The Wizard of Oz. It was just called The Wizard of Oz, the TV series. It was produced by Deke Animation City in 1990 to capitalize on the popularity of the 1939 film version, to which Deke had acquired the rights from Turner Entertainment Company. So they actually made a direct sequel to the 39 film and could use the ruby slippers, the original designs, and all of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I remember watching all of this series when I was younger because, I had no life. And it was pretty good. Like, it wasn't great or anything, but it worked. It did what it was doing. Oh, and then there was also the TV series Tin Man, starring Zooey Deschanel and Alan Cumming, which was a sci-fi adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, and that wasn't very good, so I'd put that right above The Muppet Wizard of Oz.
And then The Muppet Wizard of Oz takes its place at the very bottom of the list.
But wait, there has to be one more under it.
Are you serious?
And it's The Wonderful Land of Oz, a film directed by Barry Mann. It's a low-budget but faithful adaptation of The Marvelous Land of Oz by L. Frank Baum, which
oh no,
adapts the Tip storyline.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this is the reason why I know it so well. Mann told the New York Times he was planning to get Judy Garland to narrate the film, but the film had almost no narration. Popular rumor is that the series is composed of actors who had previously appeared in Mann's nudie films. This is, however, not the case. The nudie films were made in New York City, while the children films were made in Florida. Mann did not bring any of his former performers to appear in this film. The actress who played Glinda had extremely bouts of stage fright, and Mann and songwriters Lieselman and Falco would return for Jack and the Beanstalk and Thumbelina, both released in 1970. This is the worst version.
Oh my god, I've never even heard of that before.
I know it because Riff Tracks did a commentary on it, and it might be one of the best commentaries I've ever seen, and it's hilarious.
Well, I think you've pretty thoroughly covered everything. I've not even seen half that stuff, so I'm just gonna go with your list and say that's gotta be the accurate ranking for Oz properties, other than the books, of course.
And Once Upon a Time did like a Visit to Oz season, and it was bad.
Can we just say that the Oz properties is so bizarre and screwed up? Like, people talk about like movie series with like weird sequels and shit like that. Like, there's nothing compared to Oz.
And then there's the Steam Engines of Oz, a 2018 Canadian fantasy adventure animated film.
Okay, we're done.
Ron Perlman, William Shatner,
somebody cut him off. Somebody cut this.
There's so many Wizard of Oz properties.
Somebody cut this. This is we're done.
Oh no, Andrew, you don't know what I'm looking at. Guys, look up the Steam Engines of Oz and vomit.
Steam Engines of Oz. Oh god. This just came out? It looks like Hoodwinked.
It looks great. It's got William Shatner and Ron Perlman. Oh no. We've fallen off the rails on this crazy train. Alright, guys. Before we waste any more of your time,
this
thank
steam
you for
engine
listening.
is off the rails.
Yes, it is. Thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher at Disney Plus Cheese. We're also on Twitter at Cheesy Disney. Our Instagram is just go to Musicals with Cheese. We'll start up an Instagram for this soon enough. Our YouTube page is also Musicals with Cheese. If you want to shoot us an email, musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Our title card was created by the amazing Jolene Casco. Andrew, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
God help us. God help Oz.
God help Oz. We'll see you next time on Disney Plus Cheese.